Hi, good morning. I'm Pastor Christon, and I'm the pastor of the Jurong English Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm so blessed to be invited to preach here in Maranatha Church this Sabbath. Today, we're going to be talking about the topic, giving in crisis. But wait, you might be wondering, Pastor, is this the best time to talk about giving money to God? Are you seriously going to be talking about tithes and offerings when the world is struggling with record unemployment, where people's incomes are dropping like never before? The answer is that while I am going to be talking about tithes and offerings, I will not be asking you to give more. In fact, for some of you, I might even be asking you to stop giving. Now, what does that mean? Do stay tuned to the end of the sermon to find out, are you a part of the group that doesn't need to give tithes anymore? How has phase 2 been for everyone? I have definitely been enjoying myself because now in phase 2, the past 1.5 weeks, we're able to eat out, we can go shopping, we can visit friends and family. The other day, I had a very bad pain in my neck. When I woke up in the morning, I was like, it's phase 2, I can get a massage. You know, it's so wonderful to have the freedom to buy what you need when you want it without having to wait for delivery. But there are some disadvantages to phase 2. In phase 1 and during the circuit breaker, my wife and I, we ate at home all the time. So that means we cooked or we tapao from the coffee shop downstairs. Packet food is not expensive. Once in a while, perhaps we might splurge on a Grab food order, but that's about the limit of our spending. So that means for phase 1 as well as for the circuit breaker, we ended up saving a lot of money. I think I might have spent more in the past 2 weeks than I have the past 2 months simply because now there are things to spend money on. I take solace in the fact that my spending is probably going to prop up and help the Singapore economy. But other than that, the amount that I saved for the 2 to 3 months within circuit breaker and phase 1 was so much more, and I was very happy to see my bank account start to go up. Here in Singapore, we are all hoping that one day COVID-19 will be gone. We move to phase 3, we exit phase 3, the vaccine is found, the cure is found, we can finally go back to life as normal. But did you know that there is one country in the world that has already defeated COVID-19? They've already declared their country COVID-free, and that is Tanzania. According to their president, John Magufuli, in Tanzania, this country in Africa has been COVID-19 free since June 8. The corona disease has been eliminated thanks to God, Mr. Magufuli told worshippers in the church. On 29th April, that was the final day that the government was releasing official data. There were 509 cases with 21 deaths in Tanzania. He said that as of last week, there are only 4 patients left in Tanzania who have COVID-19 and are receiving treatment. And last month, the Tanzania government issued a warning because they strongly disagreed with the US embassy that the city was overwhelmed with COVID-19 and the hospitals were overflowing and contracting the disease was extremely high. He reportedly said that the health crisis is exaggerated, and he urged people to continue to attend services in churches and pray in the mosque because prayers can vanquish the virus. He says, I want to thank Tanzanians of all faiths. We have been praying and fasting for God to save us from the pandemic that's afflicted our country and the world. And God has answered us. And I believe, and I'm certain many Tanzanians believe, the president says, that the corona disease has been eliminated by God. And he went around and he shook the hands of the priests and the pastors and the worshippers and told them, good job for not wearing masks, good job for not wearing gloves because God has protected you. Now, while I fully believe that God heals when we call on Him in prayer, the Bible also tells us that we should listen to the advice of medical doctors. We should believe that there are things that we can do to take care of our health. When we are sick, we see a doctor, we take the recommended treatments, we take care of our bodies. The early church had many doctors who were there to treat patients and also to advise the church and lead them along. The president of Tanzania believes he can believe away the virus, while many experts actually say that COVID-19 is running rampant in Tanzania. God gave us a brain so that we can think. He gave us a brain so we can make rational decisions, not illogical ones. And as Christians, God wants us to combine our faith in Him with wise decisions to keep our bodies and bank accounts healthy. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case for the proponents of the prosperity gospel. This became very popular after World War II. Started by Pastor Norman Peale, he taught that positive thinking will make you get healthy in both your body and your bank. And Pastor Oral Roberts, the first televangelist, he started to promote this kind of positive thinking, saying, if you have faith in God, and if you give money to God, that is the secret to good health, long life, and great riches. In fact, Pastor Roberts told his congregation that their offerings and their tithes are like an investment. If you give to the church, God will reward you sevenfold. Now that is really quite an investment, 700%. Who doesn't want to make such an investment? This made Pastor Roberts extremely wealthy, but also got him to a lot of controversy and trouble as people started to dig into his past and what he's been doing and how he's been spending his money and his lavish expenses on himself and his family. Well, this seems like an extreme case. Today, many Christians still subscribe to this thinking. And I believe, including some of us, the thinking that if I'm faithful to God in my tithes and offerings, if I'm faithful to God in what I do, God will bless me with good health, and God will ensure that I have enough money, and the more faithful I am, maybe God will bless me more. This is very logical, because for humans, if I'm nice to you, you'll be nice to me. So we naturally think if I'm faithful to God, God will be faithful to me. And if I'm not faithful to God, if I don't return my tithes and offerings, if I don't come to church on Sabbath, if I don't keep the commandments, then God will not be faithful to me. But is this a biblical way of thinking? Should we as Adventists be following such a train of thought? To understand this question better, let's go back to the Bible to understand how God blesses His people. Genesis 25 and 27 tells us the story of Jacob and Esau. When the twins Jacob and Esau were born to Isaac and Rebekah, God told Rebekah, Jacob, the younger son, will become stronger than Esau, your older son, and Esau will serve Jacob. Esau grew up to be a strong and skillful hunter, while Jacob chose to stay at home to help his mother. No surprise then that Esau would become the favorite of Isaac, his father, while Jacob would become the favorite of Rebekah, his mother. And as the older son, by law, Esau would receive the birthright, become the head of the family, inheriting most of his father's wealth, and then running the household when his father passed away. Esau was not as interested in the birthright because as a man of the wild, he couldn't envision himself settling down and taking care of a household. But Jacob desired the birthright above all else, and he dreamed of inheriting all of his father's wealth and power. And so Jacob schemed to trick his brother into selling him his birthright for a meal after one of his hunts. And then, as Isaac, his father, was about to pass away, Jacob plotted together with his mother to trick his father into thinking that he was Esau. And his father Isaac blessed Jacob with the blessing meant for Esau. You can imagine how furious Esau must have been. And he vowed to kill Jacob the moment he got his hands on him. When Jacob gets wind of this, he flees for his life, aiming to put as much distance as possible between himself and Esau. And after running for an entire day, he reaches Bethel and he falls to the ground exhausted. He lies down to rest, grabs a stone for a pillow, and falls into a deep sleep. Read with me in Genesis chapter 28, verse 12. He dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to the heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Imagine this wonderful scene. I can't begin to visualize how glorious it must have been to watch a ladder from earth all the way to heaven, and the angels of God going up and down. God gave Jacob this dream to tell him, Jacob, I am not an impersonal God, far away in heaven, not caring about you here on this earth. And God is telling us the same thing today. Every moment of every day, there are angels going up and down, watching out for each and every one of us. When Jacob ran away from his home, he thought he was all alone. His father is dead, his brother wants to kill him, and his mother is helpless to protect him. He remembers his mother telling him, God's plan for him is to be the head of the household, that he will one day become great. In his youth, he dreamed of all the things he would do with the wealth that he would get, how much more powerful he would be than his brother. But now as he ran for his life, he must have wondered to himself, where is this promise that God has given to me? He has promised me so much, and now when all is lost, he wants to give up hope. But as he's laid there in Bethel, God is telling him, look up. When all is lost, watch the angels going up and down from heaven. I am here with you. My angels will protect you. I have not forgotten you. And what God says next is even more amazing. Read with me in Genesis 28, verses 13 to 15. And there above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offsprings. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. God gives Jacob the most comforting and reassuring and most beautiful promise Jacob has ever heard. The God of Abraham and Isaac is with you. You will not die alone. Your descendants will occupy this land as far as the eye can see. So many that you cannot even count, like the dust of the earth. And God said, I will be with you. I will watch over you wherever you go. I will never leave you until all of this is done. Do you notice that Jacob has not done anything good up to now? Genesis 28, verse 13 to 15. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. So this is verse 16. Surely the Lord is with you. The Bible hasn't written a single good thing about Jacob. And Jacob expects nothing from God because he's done nothing to earn God's blessings. The last thing he expected was for God to be with him. But God was with him. Let us take a step back and think about this for a second. It is commonly believed that if we are faithful to God in our lives, He will bless us. If we are not faithful to God and we don't obey Him, if we don't return our tithes and offerings, He will not bless us. But that's not the case of Jacob. His name means cheat, and he has lived up to his name, cheating his brother and his father. He hasn't given God any tithes and offerings. And right now, there isn't a single cent in his pocket. God doesn't bestow blessings on us because we are faithful. God bestows blessings on us because He is faithful. Jacob receives all these blessings from God, not because Jacob loved God, but because God loved Jacob. This knowledge that he doesn't do anything to earn God's love, even when he's been so unfaithful, has changed his life forever. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I've set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. Previously, Jacob wanted to be rich and powerful, and that is why he schemed to steal the birthright, first over a pot of stew, and then by pretending to be Esau. But now, having hit rock bottom, he realizes all the wealth in the world will come to nothing if Esau catches him and kills him. What he needs most from God is not more money, it's his life. And his mindset changes. Now, as long as he has enough, he is satisfied. And he makes this promise to God: if you give me enough, if you provide for me my basic needs, if you keep me safe, then I will return a tithe to you from all that I have. And that is what tithing is. We don't return tithe to the church because God needs our money. God doesn't need our money. He's the God of the universe. He made the universe. He doesn't need anything from us. We don't withhold tithes from the church because we think that if the church has our tithes and offerings, they will use it wrongly. Or if we disagree with how the pastor or the church board spends the money. How the conference or the church uses the money tithed and given as offering is none of our business. Our tithes and offerings is between us and God. Now, God will deal harshly with people who misuse his money. But that's up to God, not up to us. We return our tithes to God on earth, and that storehouse is the church. We also don't return our tithes because if we think if we do so, God will bless us, or God will take care of our health, or God will reward us financially. God blesses us because He is God, and He loves us, regardless of what we do or whether we are faithful or unfaithful. We return our tithes and give our offerings because God has been faithful, and He has blessed us. And when He has blessed us with income, we return that 10% tithe. No more, no less. You have heard some people say, I want to give more tithe. No, that's not the concept of tithing. You don't give tithing just because you have more money, you want to give more tithe. No. You give 10% because that 10% is that acknowledgement to God, you have blessed me regardless of whether I'm faithful or unfaithful. And now that I have income, I acknowledge that, I return that to you. You notice that God doesn't expect Jacob to tithe right now because he has nothing. At Jacob's ladder, not a cent in his pocket. If you have no income, God expects no tithe. You don't have to feel obliged to tithe to Him when you're not earning anything. If today you have lost your job, or if you've lost your income because of COVID-19, because of the financial crisis that has enveloped the whole world, and you have no money coming in, God doesn't expect you to give Him anything. If you're a homemaker and you don't have money to give, God doesn't expect you to give Him anything because His blessings to you are not conditional on tithe. Tithe is just a returning of God's blessings, that we are mere stewards of what He has given to us. 10%, no more, no less. Offerings is different. Offering we give to God because we feel He has been good to us. When God has been good to you, if He's given you a blessing, it may not even be monetary. If God has blessed you with a healthy child, if God has blessed you with good friends, with wonderful family, if God has blessed you with people in your life that have blessed you, if God has rescued you from a sickness, and you want to give a thanks to Him, that's offering. That's why there's no fixed amount in the Bible. The Bible doesn't say, offering, give X percent. No. As you are blessed and as you are thankful, you give Him as much as you feel thanks. But of course, this means if you're not thankful to God, you don't give offering. So if God has blessed you with many things, and you are not giving offering, maybe you're not thankful to Him for what He's blessed you for. The more you feel God has been good to you, the more you give. I remember the brokest time of my life. After I just got married, my wife and I made the decision we would get married and we'll buy a resale flat all at the same time. We took out a renovation loan, and that meant that even after our wedding, we had to pay off a huge amount of loan every single month. It was one of the toughest times for us because we were living from paycheck to paycheck, no money in our CPF, no money in our bank account. If either of us had lost our jobs, that's it. We would have fallen deep into debt. And to be honest, during that time, I had thought to myself, maybe I should keep that tithe. I need a little bit backup, I need some money in the bank just in case something bad happens. For 2 years, we couldn't eat at restaurants. We couldn't go out to have fun. Some days, I began to think about all the things I could buy if I didn't return tithe. I could go for a holiday. I could buy a new computer. But I knew that God had blessed me. He had blessed me with income. And so I would return to Him my tithe. Because God has always provided enough for my family and me. So no matter how many bills came in that month, even when it seemed like I wouldn't have enough to pay off that credit card debt, if I gave tithe, I still returned tithe. And God always provided. There's this one time where I didn't have enough to pay off my credit card debt because that month's expenses were higher. I didn't want to have that rolling credit card debt. But I had to think to myself, do I want to pay my tithe, return my tithe, or do I pay my debt? I said, okay, I'll return my tithe. And that month, $500 dropped from the sky. And I could pay it off. God always makes sure we have enough. And God sustained our jobs for 2 years. We paid off our renovation loan, and then our savings started to rise once more. God had blessed my wife and I with the jobs that paid us exactly enough to get married, to buy a house, to start a family. And it's only right that as He has blessed me, I return to Him my tithes and offerings. Because long before I knew what I needed, God knew exactly how much I needed. And He prepared me in advance for that. Long before I became a pastor. Long before I gave my life to the Lord, because when this was happening, I was not a pastor yet. God already had this long list of blessings He wanted to give to me. And God has prepared a long list of blessings for you, just like He did Jacob, just like He did me. Maybe now you are like Jacob, at the bottom of the ladder. Maybe you've made many mistakes in your lives. Maybe you believe in your heart you've done nothing to deserve God's blessings. Well, here's news for you. God's going to bless you whether you deserve it or not. Maybe you have no money to give tithes to God right now. God's going to bless you even if you don't return your tithes and offerings. God is telling you today, I am with you. I will bless you even if you are not faithful, even if you have no money. Or perhaps right now, you're like Jacob many years later. You have money in your bank. You have things in your home. You're wondering when is the next time you can go travel because you have money in the bank account that needs to go towards a flight ticket. Return your tithes and offerings to Him because He has blessed you. If during this COVID-19 you have a stable job and money in the bank, return your tithes and offerings to God because He has blessed you. Today, let's bring our offering of our lives to Him because He is faithful.